I now call to order the August 11th, 2026 Board of Trustees meeting, the time being 6:29 p.m. We can rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Will the clerk please take roll?
Trustee Blackstone,
Here.
Trustee Moore,
Present.
Trustee Barrett,
Here.
Trustee Moyer,
Is that me here?
thank you, ma'am. Trustee Cannon,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Daley,
Present.
Madam Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you. Are there any amendments to the agenda this evening? Are there any conflicts of interest on the agenda on agenda items tonight? All right, now is the time for community participation. Members of the public who wish to comment on non-agenda items, please sign in the sheet behind the podium and state your name clearly into the microphone. Each speaker will have 3 minutes to provide comments. If by chance your comment has to do with an action item, I will ask you to instead return during that action item for those comments, please. Yes, sir.
Thank you. My name is Richard Seaworth. I live at 4283 White Deer Lane. And I want to talk about water tonight, which is not on the agenda. I've been coming to these meetings for over 50 years. I've heard it all. I've heard board after board come up with all kinds of excuses to keep kicking the can down the road. And that's the reason you have a major problem tonight. You no longer have any redundancy on your water supply. You are totally reliant on Lake 3. Nothing wrong with Lake 3, but bad things happen. If you don't believe it, ask the people that were involved in the Palisade fire in California. So we need to have that fixed. Now, last month, I came to a water meeting, one of your workshops, where you had a company put forth a recommendation for you to buy water from them. I don't know anything about the company. All I know is I did do a lot of research on their decrees. They're ironclad. Their water quality is good. And most of it is the quality is good and the quantity is there. Plus, it's drought resistant. And we're in the middle of one of the worst droughts I've seen right now, which is the reason it's going to be very important for you to act. So what I'm asking for you to do is set aside your petty differences, act professional, and act with leadership and get us out of the mess we're in. Because another thing they talked about was their water will be cheaper than some of the North Poudre you're buying today. And North Poudre really doesn't want to sell it to you. So I would really like for you to get on top of this, because there's been town boards that have squandered a lot of great opportunities for this town. And I think this is one of the best opportunities I've seen in 50 years. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other public comment this evening? We'll now have a presentation on economic development incentive policy framework. Presenting tonight will be Elizabeth Magargel, Business Development Manager.
Good evening. I'm gonna do a quick little test run here. Sure, I'm. Right. Thank you all for your time this evening. Tonight's presentation introduces a potential economic development incentive policy framework for Wellington and highlights how the policy can support the town's economic development goals. This discussion will build on previous presentations regarding economic conditions and the board's direction to explore tools that can support the town in actively attracting and retaining businesses and fostering economic vibrancy. Apologies here with the slides. This evening, I will be introducing a policy framework. I will share what the proposed incentive policy is, and equally important, what it is not. I will introduce guiding principles considered in preparing the framework, ask for the board's input on the framework, and then seek direction on whether staff should move forward with drafting a formal policy. The Economic Development Incentive Policy is at its core an economic development tool. It offers consistent guiding principles for evaluating financial incentives that support business attraction, expansion, retention, and community investment that will advance the town goals and provide public benefit, such as expanding the tax base, creating jobs, improving a site, or filling a service gap. The proposed framework does not require a standing funding commitment. I won't be asking for a new budget line this evening. It does not create an entitlement, offer general operating subsidies, or try to control market competition. Instead, it provides for consideration of incentives on a case-by-case basis based on unique public benefits a business or project will bring to the town. The policy does not change town code or development standards, and it does not replace other aspects of economic development, nor remove other aspects of a business site selections consideration. It is, though, a valuable tool to help the town strategically respond to opportunities, encourage investment, support projects that provide meaningful public benefit, and strengthen Wellington's long-term economic vitality. So, why have an economic development policy? One of the primary benefits is preparedness. Opportunities can arise quickly, and the policy gives the town a clear and transparent framework for responding. An incentive policy aligns with the board's strategic plan and supports opportunities to diversify and grow the tax base, to address gaps in goods, service, or employment, and to remain competitive within our region. So before getting into sharing the framework, I'd like to share a few of the guiding principles that help guide the drafting process of the framework. First, we wanted to provide a policy that clearly articulated the goals it is intended to support. We wanted the approach to enable the town to incentivize a variety of business and project types that could support the town's economic goals. We looked that it should enable incentives that are meaningful enough to influence a project while still protecting the financial and community benefits. The intent of this policy is to create a decision-making framework, not a standing budget requirement, and to pursue partnerships that produce reasonable benefit for both the town and the business. So also a couple notes on the structure of the policy framework I'm going to be sharing. The proposed framework is a single policy that can be used to encourage different business types and project sizes, including retail and commercial projects, industrial investment, redevelopment and infill, destination businesses, and expansion for existing Wellington businesses. Encouraging a range of business types can expand the range of public benefits. Some projects might generate sales tax or property tax revenue, while others might create jobs, improve an underutilized property, attract outside spending, or provide a service that is currently missing. And then through the singular policy approach, the town can offer a variety of financial incentives to respond to the uniqueness and impact of an individual project. For example, fee reductions might be most useful when a small business or expansion faces significant upfront costs. Sales tax sharing may be more appropriate for a retail project that will generate new and ongoing revenue. And infrastructure participation by the town may be more effective for a larger development or site readiness project. Each request would be evaluated individually and, when appropriate, documented through a project-specific incentive. Now I'm going to walk through the economic development incentive policy framework, which was attached in the presentation. I'm planning to kind of go through each page, each section, and then pause for any feedback or questions I can help with. So as we described in the The guiding principles, we wanted to have clearly articulated goals of the policy. I propose that this policy will be able to attract new businesses and investment to the town, encourage the expansion and retention of existing businesses, diversify the town's tax base and economic portfolio, support high-quality employment opportunities for the local labor force, promote development that aligns with the board's strategic plan and the town's comprehensive plan, and maintain fiscal responsibility and accountability of public resources. I'm going to pause there and ask if there is any feedback or questions about the draft goals.
Any questions on goals? Continue, Patti.
All right. Going next into the eligibility criteria. This criteria outlines the minimum threshold to be considered for an incentive. The eligibility criteria is intended to keep the incentive policy accessible to a range of business types and project sizes while ensuring applicants demonstrate a reasonable level of viability, readiness, and credibility, both before the applicant and the town invest time and resources to provide and analyze the information required for an incentive request. To be considered for an incentive, suppose a project or business must demonstrate that they will have a positive economic impact on the town. And that might include an increase to the town's tax base, the creation of full-time jobs, or investments that make a property more economically viable. A business or project must reasonably demonstrate an ability to complete the project by providing a business plan, timeline, and again, showing that financial stability to reasonably complete the project. And then the project must be located within the town's planning area or jurisdiction, be consistent with the town's comprehensive plan, comply with applicable town code and regulations, and not have outstanding town obligations. Then the next section, the next table, the evaluation criteria. These are examples of factors used to assess the overall economic and community impact of an eligible project. This approach will allow the town to look at different factors of how a project will provide public benefit and to scale the level of impact to help determine if an incentive is appropriate. Examples of factors for evaluation include the economic impact, which would be the total capital investment, potential tax revenue generation, net creation of new jobs, and others. The contribution to quality of place and community, and then also a few unique considerations as well, such as the project facilitating facilitates the development of a uniquely challenging site or advances particular town goals. The two-step approach with minimum eligibility criteria and different factors for evaluation provide both consistency and discretion. Clear minimum standards for applicants while providing flexibility to evaluate the unique public benefit of each project. I'll pause there and ask for any feedback, questions.
Let's jump into the incentives. Yep.
All right. The next section describes the potential incentives. These could be offered in support of the town's commitment to fostering economic vibrancy. The intent is not necessarily to apply the same incentive to every project, but to align the incentive tool to the specific need and value the project is expected to bring to the town. The incentives could be offered individually or in combination, and they are not intended to be limiting. Potential incentives proposed in the framework include mitigation of development fees, which would include a full or partial reduction of certain one-time town fees, such as application fees, development review fees, and building permit fees. Rebates or sharebacks of collected sales, use, and property tax. Typically, these would be structured so the town would share a portion of revenue that may have not been otherwise gained if not for the incentive or the business coming. Mm-hmm. And it would be structured around new or incremental revenue generated by the project, so that would help protect the town's existing revenue base. Other potential incentives could include a full or partial deferment or structured payment of the town's impact and capital investment fees, public infrastructure support, which could include town assistance with public infrastructure improvements such as road, utilities, sidewalks, and other public amenities, and consideration of special financing districts, which would allow the district to finance, design, plan, construct, install, or complete improvements related to the development project. Also important to note that the town does not have the authority to waive or reduce outside jurisdiction taxes or fees. So where, Larimer is providing or requiring a tax, that's not one that we'll have the opportunity to negotiate. I'll pause again.
Just out of curiosity, is this something where if somebody wanted to come into town and do this and they're working with the town, that they would be like, hey, what would be really helpful is the development fees waived, and you guys are responding to that? Is that kind of the process, or is it more of, because we've asked you guys to kind of have outreach to potential companies, that you guys are going to them with this like kind of slate of options, or is it a bit of both and all of the above?
Both and all of the above. So I could see a business coming and, we do get questions. Hey, do you have an incentive policy? It's one of the first questions that a business in inbound comes with. We could also, we will proactively plan to go out and say, we wanted to share this new incentive policy with you. The process would be having a discussion about what the project is, ensuring that they meet the minimum criteria, and then working with them to collect information to assess what the economic and community impacts will be. So it's definitely something to proactively market to businesses, as well as to have to respond when asked. And it is one of the first questions the businesses have.
No, that makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right. And then going to the last page, the application process. It's designed to create a general yet consistent path from initial conversation through the final consideration. It does enable appropriate flexibility to allow for discussion and due diligence depending on the size of the project and type of incentives being considered. I also want to highlight the consideration decision authority for the board. The draft proposes that the town administrator has authority to approve incentive agreements valued at or below $25,000. For incentives valued above $25,000, staff will present recommendations to the board for consideration and potential approval. The $25,000 is based on thresholds in the town's financial management policies. So ask if the board has any questions about that threshold or any other parts of the overall application process.
I do, but I think I'm going to save them for the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyone else? Okay.
Madam Mayor, I have my hand raised, but I am also wondering if I should just save all of my comments to the end.
Let's save them, because I think a lot of them might be intertwined throughout
same.
multiple
Yep.
sections. Thank you.
All right. Then just want to open up for general questions. Seeking feedback on whether this general framework reflects the board's economic development priorities. Any feedback, questions about the overall approach, details about the framework are welcome.
Thank you. As this is a presentation, there's no action items that will occur tonight. We won't be approving anything, probably just providing recommendations or direction for staff. So please keep that in mind. Let's start with Trustee Moyer.
Hi, yeah. So I have a few questions. I think that, well, maybe some comments first. Sorry. I think that the public benefit should 100% match what the incentive is, in terms of, if we are looking at giving a great incentive to a developer to come here, what is that benefit to our community? And what item on our comp plan or strategic plan are they ultimately directly contributing to? I think that's important. And when I look at that, of course, I have affordable housing in mind, but that's not exactly it. That could be our parks and rec, that could be our library, it could be a million different things. But when we're providing a cost cut and reducing a barrier for someone to come here, I would like to think that they also would be looking at how they can benefit our community in a positive way. I also would like to see, I think the administrative threshold is fine. I trust our staff to make those decisions. But I would also want us to look at, and I know they will consider, the infrastructure and utility implications of anything that comes our way. I think it's right now, while people are so focused on our water rates and how that affects everyday life. Of course, we want to be very transparent about how these incentives would affect or not affect any funds that would be able to go towards water or not towards water. And those funds are very specific in how they are run and operated and contributed to, that I just want to make very clear to people exactly what is and is not possible through this type of incentive program. I believe in it wholeheartedly. I have seen it work. In Milliken, we were able to reduce tap fees, reduce impact fees, and really were able to reduce impact fees and build affordable housing. And not that housing is the one thing that this is going to do, for sure. It is absolutely not. It will bring businesses, but I want it to be very clear to residents that one thing does not, giving a piece of pie out of one pie does not mean that there is not other pie available for other things. And I apologize if I'm not being super clear tonight. I think that's it. I just think that we need to bring businesses in. Oh, and make sure that there's equity among what we offer to new businesses and the support that we give to the ones that are here.
Thank you. I love the consideration of expanding businesses too. I like that that was included. Thank you, Trustee Moyer. Trustee Cannon.
Thank you. I think this is a great start. And I appreciate all the work going to put this together. A couple of comments. I will mirror a little bit of what Trustee Moyer said, but I've always been very careful about taking funds away from, like, our utilities, for example, and by cutting tap fees or cutting that. And this is not for any ongoing operational costs. I appreciate that as well. So I'd just be real careful about that. I've done a lot of these incentives before, and knowing how to read a pro forma, knowing how to dig into a pro forma to make sure they're not, just spinning a tail is very important. And it takes a lot of attention. One comment I would make when you talked about the special financing districts, it seems like a pretty comprehensive list, but we've left off a downtown development authority, which is probably one of the most powerful ones. You do have the urban renewal authority, but recent laws in Colorado have kind of watered that one down a bit, so they're not as powerful as they used to be. But I do like the fact that they're listed. But I will point out their business improvement district, a general improvement district, a local improvement district, and even a metropolitan district are all tax-based. So where those benefits will be paid through taxes, whereas your URA and the DDA are not. So that's the only comment that I would have, and I would like to see that DDA included in that list of special districts. Thank you.
DDA meaning Downtown Development Authority. Trustee Blackstone.
Yeah. First, I just want to say thank you. I believe this is coming from, or at least partially based off of that realtor listening tour that you guys did. I just want to say I appreciate that we are relying on what folks are saying and not just some template for some other town. I think that's just really important. And that I feel like this is something that this board and staff have been working on aggressively, at least since I've been on the board. And you can see it at like the comprehensive plan, the strategic plans that we have. I feel like this is something that we've been very clear that we support. One of my questions, though, just turned off, was, I don't think I have any major questions. There's just like, as far as like the $25,000 number, I'm just interested, I guess, like where did that come from, or like why is that? I don't know.
That's based on some of the thresholds in the town's existing financial management policies.
Okay,
So what the town administrator can approve without board approval if it's not budgeted.
cool.
So it's using the existing policies as a starting place.
And then I know I just said that I'm glad we're not following in other towns, but is this aligned with what other folks are doing as well? I feel like, just to hit on both sides.
Absolutely. And both are very important. And I have been very fortunate to have had great conversations with colleagues in different communities, having read different incentive policies from both locally and across the state. And I feel that this aligns with what other towns are doing, as well as hits on some of the things that are unique to Wellington. For the 25,000 in particular, the threshold is unique to every town and what the board is comfortable with. There are many boards that want to approve all. There are some that have very much higher thresholds. So it's ultimately a decision for what you all would like to see.
And just on two things that some of the other board members mentioned, my one concern, and it really sparked when Trustee Moyer brought it up, was that I don't want to have the existing businesses feel like, hey, we've already put in this time and effort and money, and now somebody else, especially if it's a competing business, is now getting some leg up that I didn't get. That's just a concern that I have on it. I don't know what that answer is. And then I liked what Trustee Cannon said about the DDA. I don't know as much about those, but I think from what I understand, it is a powerful tool. So I think that's something worth exploring as well if we're kind of taking that forward. But that's all.
Thank you. Trustee Moore.
Thank you for the presentation. I do not currently have questions at this time. I think everything has kind of been answered. I appreciate it though.
Thank you. Trustee Barrett.
This is an excellent presentation. I love it. It's very comprehensive. I absolutely agree with the DDA being added. That is a very good tool, and seeing a lot of success in neighboring districts. I think it's something that we definitely should include. I also agree with just making sure that our businesses, that our pre-existing businesses do feel our support too. I mean, yeah, I just pretty much everything's been covered, but yeah, I definitely am on the same page and echo all of those sentiments. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Ms. Magargel, really appreciate the presentation tonight. I think you were very thorough when you were developing the eligibility as well as evaluation criteria. So thank you very much for that. I would like to see that these incentives are used kind of solely for commercial businesses and not necessarily for residential developments. I think to me, it's extremely important that we expand our commercial sales tax base as far as that goes. So I also agree with Trustee Cannon in the sense that I don't want to see any revenue removed from our water enterprise funds. So personally, I would not support incentives related to tap fees. But otherwise, I think that the incentives offered less than $25,000 align with our existing purchasing policy. So I'm fine with that. But other than that, I'd really be curious if the board has other thoughts on, whether we're using these funds for, residential or specifically commercial development. I think that's kind of my main question. So.
I'm really excited for this, and I've been hoping that we would move forward on this as soon as possible. It makes us competitive with neighboring communities, and then the opportunity to really have a significant positive impact on the community, not just by welcoming more commercial options to our community, but increasing property tax, increasing sales tax, increasing use tax. So the impact of any kind of expense associated with this would be seriously benefiting the town regardless. So, and I appreciate that that is acknowledged and says that, obviously any kind of incentive would be based off of the actual revenues that would be expected from that business and the impact in the community. Plus, sometimes when those incentives are sales or use tax or property tax, any of the tax-based ones, they usually have a limited time period. So meaning after the 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of, sales tax share, then it will go up to the 100%. And then long-term, it's a huge impact for the community. So I think that that is wonderful. The two things I was wondering from an incentive perspective, and this one specifically spoke against any differences to land use code or development processes. In part of the Municipal Leadership Academy, we toured one of the Amazon fulfillment centers. I'm not saying Amazon's coming to Wellington. Okay, I want to make that very clear. But I do want to let everybody know that they picked Thornton for that one solely because Thornton was willing to decrease the parking requirement for that site, because based on their actual operations, they did not require what you would for standard for that type of building and that size of building. So that saved them a lot of money and helped them pick a parcel that was beneficial for what they were looking for, and is the only reason that they went with Thornton. So I want to throw that out there. I don't think it falls within this document. I'm just wondering if that's something that we would consider in the future, or amend our land use code instead of as an incentive policy to have some flexibility. So that's a separate topic probably, but that's an incentive definitely that has brought certain major commercial businesses to towns. The other one is the speed to market. I don't see on here any fast tracking options. And that would go, and that's well within our means from my perspective, maybe not from a staff perspective, but having a significant commercial interest come and play and say, hey, if we can turn this around in this amount of time and expect these kind of things that are fast tracked from our normal process, we would be willing to play with Wellington. So that's something I would want to explore as well. So a fast track option, kind of like how we're fast tracking, affordable housing projects as well. So something to that extent. I know has the administrative approval up to $25,000 based on our financial policies, but I'm also wondering for that approval process, it could be well beyond that for any kind of very significant project. And when we're responding to and recruiting major commercial entities to come to Wellington, and we're responding to their RFI request for information or RFP for proposal, they're going to ask us what incentives we have available. What I would hate for us to say, here are all the possible incentives for them to pursue the project, invest in it, and then for us to reject it in the future. So I'm wondering if we can set up specific thresholds based off of significant size of a project that we can say would be absolutely approved. Obviously, we'd have to prove the eligibility, all those kind of things, not just blanket, you get this, but with meeting the criteria, we could say this absolutely is something that you would be eligible for, rather than comes back to the board and we strike it down. So I don't want us known for dangling the carrot and then pulling it away. If we're going to be a great business partner and incentivize people to come to us, I want them to be able to depend on that. So that's a consideration I wanted to do there. Whether or not those thresholds are based off specific markets that we're in, industries that we're recruiting, another consideration. If obviously we're looking for a primary employer, saying that we would by automatic threshold provide these kind of benefits to them, but within this industry or within this market, another consideration. I don't know if that's something we would want to consider. And then the other one is a finance question related to what Mayor Pro Tem asked, and then I'm going to ask everybody about their thoughts on this. So when there is a reimbursement on an impact fee, I used the word reimbursement just now. So my question is it a waived fee or is it reimbursed fee? And if it is reimbursed, is it reimbursed from that fund or is it reimbursed from a general fund? Are we actually losing money in a water or sewer fund, for example, based off that, or is it reimbursed from elsewhere? That's my question.
So I'm gonna try to answer it, although if I misspeak, Nick, if you want to add. So with the development fee, which is the first incentive on that table, those are those one-time fees, and those come from our general fund. So if we did a reimbursement with that, it would be with the fund that came into, and it wouldn't be impacting the utility fee.
Okay.
We also, have in there an option to consider waiving fees.
Mhm.
There's certain risks that come with that too. So again, it would be kind of a case by case. Do we want to waive something versus collect it initially and then subsequently reimburse from that? For the impact fees, the way we have it phrased right now is a deferment or payment plan. So in that case, we are not talking about reimbursing or changing the fee. It would be most likely used in a situation where a builder is, or a project is speculative development. So, hey, we want to come in and create a business center, or we want to create a new structure on downtown. We don't have businesses fully committed. Therefore, our cash flow is a little different. And with speculative businesses, banks look at them differently for risk. So it would be a little bit of shifting when the cash is due. It would not be the way it's written right now, removing any of the utility fees. It would be a deferment or payment where they would still have to pay the full.
So that's a major problem for actual developments that we have approved right now. So that's interesting. Yes, please.
Just one question related to that. If some type of deferral or something like that was to be, I presume that the developer of the business would be contractually obligated in the event that they pulled out or something like that, that they would still be required to pay that fee. That's okay. Thank you.
Absolutely. And each incentive agreement, would have a legal agreement associated with it. The length of the legality might, reflect what the type of incentive. If we're waiving a fee or two, it might be a shorter agreement, of course, than something where we're doing large deferments. Again, just kind of speculating here. Thinking of what these projects could look like, I would certainly want to hold them accountable for anything that they would back away from, but also if we included additional incentives such as a sales tax share back or an incremental tax property incentive, getting those incentives would also be based on that they have, started to do the repayment of however that's based too. So if they opened shop and they weren't paying on what was agreed to, then we would not be sharing back as the agreement had happened, as well as going after it, being whatever. So, these incentive processes can get pretty complex, and you have to look at it from what risk could be included. And again, things like the deferment is riskier, or a complete waiver of a fee is riskier than a reimbursement. So businesses, I'm sure, would prefer the waiver, but again, there's risks and benefits that we'll have to weigh according to the individual project, the business asking, and all of that.
So in my mind, would be against a waiver, but the deferred or payment plan is something I think I would support. Let's go around a circle real quick and I'll get back to you, Trustee Cannon, do you have a comment on it first? Yes, please.
Just if I may.
Mr. Bird.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Magargel did a really good job answering that question. And I just want to throw out there too, that in terms of defining a policy statement, it's unlikely that water taps are going to be waived, sewer taps, or things that affect utilities or enterprise funds. That's not obviously staff's primary goal.
Mhm.
It is one of the primary questions that is asked. And so in terms of defining a policy, we wanted to put everything on the table, knowing that individual approvals through a development agreement would come back before this board. Obviously, a water tap waiver, sewer tap waiver, those are putting you over that $25,000 threshold that would come back to the board for consideration on a commercial project.
Mhm.
And you'd look at that through a development agreement. If there was a very strong, compelling case and a will and desire from the town to look at it, we want to keep that option on the table. That's all this policy is saying.
So I think what I'm hearing from Mayor Protem is that he would like to take the waiver itself off the table. Is that what I'm hearing?
I think I would probably attempt to steer away from a waiver, but I think as Mr. Bird said, I don't want to take anything necessarily off the table. If there was a business with a significant impact that was going to come to town, I think everything is worth considering.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. Trustee Barrett, thoughts on that specific topic?
I agree with that. We want to be driven by waiving anything. So I think it's good to keep that as kind of very special circumstance for consideration.
Okay.
But yeah, I definitely prefer this method of deferment as an incentive because,
Trustee Cannon, opinion on the utility impact fees?
Well, I have several opinions, but I've already talked about what I said about not wanting to. I come from a world where if you use a water tap fee, for example, as an incentive to waive that, it has to be paid back to the water, and it's usually paid back through the general fund. So the question isn't so much about waiving water and utilities and storm drainage and all that kind of stuff. It's about the impact on the general fund. And my other comment, which kind of goes along the same thing, is most of these are always going to be a case by case basis. What are they bringing to the table? What is their business pro forma going to look like? What kind of jobs are they creating? What is the estimated property taxes, their construction cost? You need to be able to read and decipher that. So having a checklist of these are all of our limits on every single aspect, to me, is not as important as being able to work within the framework of, for example, your special financing districts, like your URA, for example, gives you tremendous flexibility to make a lot of those because you can really make some substantial reductions or returns of sales and property taxes to these businesses. We don't want, and what I would not want to see is a carte blanche kind of saying, oh yeah, what are your incentives? Oh, we'll give you $100,000. That's the very worst answer to that question. You really need to say, well, we have our urban renewal authority in place, and we can work with you about your startup cost. And I like your comments about fast tracking and so forth, and that should be a separate policy. But thank you.
Trustee Moore, opinions on the utility?
I would mirror, I think, everybody's opinion regarding the deferral as opposed to a waive. But no other questions.
Thank you. Trustee Blackstone?
The same. I think if I'm with kind of Trustee Mason on this, or Pro Tem Mason, that if it is like having things on the table I like that idea, but I think that that's just a heavy weight that this board and future boards need to keep in mind that that's not ideal. But if there's a reason. So,
Okay.
sorry about that.
No, that makes sense. Trustee Moyer?
Yeah, hi, thank you. I feel like what I've seen work in practice is fees waived to allow for an avenue of development and production of very specific products. If affordable housing unit is desired, then there is a path made through either deferment or a just general reduction of impact fees, water right fees, etc. Water fees in lieu, of water, in order to make that piece of affordability more affordable to produce. In general, in Colorado, we're about $160,000 into the ground before we even start building construction up. And so I think it's important to consider the things that we can and cannot be flexible on. And I think that the $25,000 threshold is good for our administrative leniency. I would say that I would really like to see this be set at a certain point and then the flexibility to be reviewed on a case-by-case basis, because I think every single project comes with its own unique set of rules and opportunities and all of that. Sorry, I'm just looking at my notes. The impact fees, I mean, the things that we can do, the things that we can waive, the things that we can be flexible on as a community that do not affect the bottom line for our residents are the things that we should and can consider as flexible and incentivizing opportunities for our businesses that could potentially bring more here and also not raise a ruckus, for lack of better words, for our community. No one wants to hurt anyone that's existing here, but also we really do need to create a path for businesses and developers alike to be able to come here. We are actually not a landlocked entity. We have land, we have room for expansion. And so we need to make that as enticing, but also we need to protect ourselves and make sure that we're getting from it exactly what we need to get from it at the same time. So this needs to be a mutually beneficial partnership.
Absolutely, I agree. My last question, and then there's another one for decision amongst the group for direction, is whether or not this could be applied to projects already in process that are stalled out potentially, to offer them some kind of incentive to get them going, kind of that thought of being retroactive, that kind of thing. So that's just a question to put out there. And then the final question I heard from Mayor Pro Tem is whether this should only be applied to commercial. And based on our strategic plan, I think that that is a thumbs up from everybody, but could I get a quick thumbs up for only related to commercial? Moy, are you up?
I'm sideways.
Okay. All right. So the overall direction is that this would be applied only to commercial development. The other thing I heard is to add the Downtown Development Authority, although I think that is included in the business improvement districts, but specifically to add that as a potential option. And then otherwise, I heard lots of fans. So I think that's the overall direction. Thank you so much for your. Next item is the consent agenda. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the titles on the consent agenda?
July 14th, 2026 board meeting minutes, July 28th, 2026 board meeting minutes, resolution number 31-2026, adoption of the bylaws of the Board of Trustees.
May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes,
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
thank you much. On to action items. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the title of item 1?
Resolution number 25-2026, a resolution of the Town of Wellington setting the compensation for the municipal court judge.
Thank you. And presenting on this item, we'll have Municipal Court Judge Teresa Ablao.
All right, thank you, Madam Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Board of Trustees. Thank you for having me here today. I also want to thank you for reappointing me in April for another term. I am very honored that you entrust me with the responsibility of being the town judge for another term. The reason for the request for a raise in my compensation is mainly to bring me up to the same salary that I have in my other jurisdictions. I have been appointed since 2000. I haven't had an increase since 2019. The increase that I'm asking for is a $50 increase to my monthly compensation. It is about the same as what I have in the other jurisdictions. I have in the chart that was in the agenda item summary, I just wanted to clarify for you all that I have I'm slowly trying to enter retirement. I'm very bad at it. So I am no longer, I have retired from Milliken, Erie, and Severance. So I am currently with Windsor, Kersey, Eaton, and of course, Wellington. So if I would appreciate a bump in my salary, but I also understand that there is budget constraints and such, but I would appreciate that consideration. If you have any questions about municipal court or ever want to come and visit us in court, we always welcome observers and such.
I hope to never be there.
Okay.
Are there any questions for the judge?
I don't know. Oh, I guess I do have a question. Is it true that you've been serving Wellington since 2000?
Correct.
Okay, I just wanted to make that be known. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
No other questions.
Thank you. I don't see your hand. Trustee Moyer, do you have any questions?
Oh, I had no hand up, but I second that emotion that I don't necessarily ever want to have to meet you in person at your place of business. But thank you for your efforts.
Thank you. There is no motion on the board, but yeah, there you go. We'll open it up for public comment, please. Any public comment on this item? All right, I will entertain any discussion or motion.
I move to approve resolution number 25-2026, a resolution of the town of Wellington, Colorado, setting the compensation of the municipal court judge.
Second that.
Too late. Roll call, please.
Trustee Moyer? Trustee Moyer?
Yes.
Thank you. Trustee Blackstone?
Yes.
Trustee Barrett?
Yes.
Trustee Cannon?
Yes.
Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Mason?
Thank you for your service. Yes.
Yes, thank you for your service. Thank you.
Okay,
Thank you
thank
so much,
you.
Judge. I hope to not see you soon.
Thank you.
All right, on to item 2. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the title?
Resolution number 32-2026, Board of Trustee Proclamation Policy.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. Patti Garcia, Town Administrator. This proclamation policy was brought to you through a presentation at the last meeting. There was a request at that time to include Pride Month onto the list of proclamations, which may be provided annually. So it has been updated with that information. I did want to add, I do follow a calendar that has like national days. So today is National Sons and Daughters Day. So we could have a proclamation for that if we wanted. And another one is Play in the Sand Day. Which so anyway, just those are some options out there, but I think that we have a really comprehensive list right here. In the addition of Pride, the Pride Month was included for your discussion.
Thank you. I assume we don't have any questions of understanding per se, as this is kind of the second time we've heard about this. Is anybody not understanding anything about the proclamation? We'll talk about opinions in a second after public comment. None. I'll open this up for public comment. Yes, sir. Who are you?
Hello, my name is Dave Wiegand, Pettigrew Street, Wellington here. Want to talk about adding the Pride Month. I think we should reconsider that. Good, bad, or indifferent, it is very controversial. And do we need to be bogged down? Do we need that for our town and for you guys to be battling that? I know a lot of times we get good press, bad press. We don't need anything else that can be negative. I know I respect Trustee Moyer, and I understand why she brought this up. And it's about inclusion. But one thing you need to keep in mind, you might be including a small portion, but you're excluding a lot of people too in the process. You know, the flow chart in this town is the town people, trustees, mayor, and then the city. We're working for the town, and we need to keep everybody's viewpoint in line. Appreciate it. You guys take care. Hey, and also too, I appreciate everything you guys are doing. You're doing a great job too, so.
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Dave.
So good to see you, Trustee Wiegand.
Thank you.
Any other comments? Please come up. Yes, up to the podium. You can sign in a second, but thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Trustees. I'm Carla Biddle. I attended the last meeting and listened closely to the board's conversations regarding adding a Pride proclamation to our current list. In the comments, a trustee stated the board proclamations are not political. Then it was stated by the same trustee, the board has to show up when it's hard and when it's uncomfortable because that's when our values are actually tested. I've given this a great deal of thought because these statements contradict each other. For myself, in a vote, a political stance is where people will decide what is right and wrong. Values, on the other hand, is a moral statement of what people personally feel to be right or wrong, and it's not up for a vote. Same trustee stated, we can't be selective and making people feel they belong. We have to be consistent. Proclamations are a list of selective chosen observances, not a policy. A policy recognizes anything and everything. So if we can't be selective in our proclamations, then the town needs to recognize all organizations and all occasions. We have approximately 19 annual proclamations on our town's list. Out of that list, 2 are federally recognized holidays, Martin Luther King and Juneteenth, which are recognized as historical civil rights movements, not a cause. The remaining proclamations, they recognize people's professions or a town function. And I would list them all, but I only have 3 minutes. Wellington's already known as a welcoming town for a variety of reasons. We have local cattle ranchers, farmers, and ag, local downtown events and venues, which include many of the talents shown by residents alongside small businesses, just to name a few. This in itself contributes to promoting that wholesome, welcoming, small town feeling. To include Pride Month in the town's proclamations, which does not fit into a federally recognized holiday or a profession in this town, does put a political label on our town and her wonderful people, as well as putting this conservative town and her people on the map as a left-wing political party, which in itself does not accurately describe approximately 90% of the residents in this community. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? All right, we're going to bring it back to the board. I will be limiting comments on this from the board for 2 minutes per person, just so we know up front. We're going to start with Trustee Blackstone, please.
I like the proclamation resolution as it's currently written. I think it sits within kind of our discussions beforehand. Just on that note of, us being a wholesome, welcoming town, I think these proclamations do just that. I don't think I have much else to add.
Thank you, sir. Trustee Moore.
I also like the proclamations as written, and to reflect back on what my thoughts were last time that we discussed them. I think that if we want to be a town that is inclusive, to take out pride feels like such a direct opposition of inclusion. I have participated in the town's pride events, and my experience with those events has been so heartwarming and so celebratory and so positive that I think it's important that we maintain that. And this is I guess, a way to stand by those experiences. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, it's no secret that this has been a really super large priority of mine from the very beginning. And it's not to be political, it's to be inclusive. Literally, every single human being in this community is somebody that I have vowed to represent. I don't care if you agree with me or disagree with me or have the same values as me or not. No one knows exactly what that is until you divulge that to them. And I have made myself very visible in the last week to say that this is not a political or religious topic for me. This is humanity. This is me saying every single one of us has the opportunity to be recognized and valued and welcomed into this community. And if that's what we say in our strategic plan, and if that's what we say in our mission statement, and that's what we say in our vision statement, we need to act on that. And that's not us being weak. And that's not us saying we're going to do this eventually. That is us showing up now and saying, even when people look at us and it's contentious and it's hard, we show up with that value because that's what we said we were going to do.
Thank you, Trustee Moore. Trustee Cannon.
Trustee Moyer, thank you for your comments. You know, last year we had a proclamation for Pride Month, and I made a very personal message to the board and anyone else who is commuting, because I have a transgender daughter. And Pride Month doesn't mean as much to me as it does to her. But I also feel that our role as a board is really about this community, and I appreciate inclusion and so forth. I just think it's a little too controversial to include it. Thank you.
Trustee Barrett.
I support this as written. On the inclusion of Pride Month, including it doesn't diminish anyone else in this community. I know people may not agree with it, but this is a marginalized demographic that deserves to be acknowledged and told that they belong here, the same as we all do. And saying that does not diminish anyone in this town. And that is why I absolutely support it. When you talk about meeting a threshold of 95% of residents in our town, none of these, I'd say, truly meet that. You know, we do see for Martin Luther King Day, our civil rights acts being deconstructed federally. But we still have that proclamation, and it's because people belong. And I feel the same way about Pride Month, Juneteenth, all of these. And whether it's a federally recognized holiday or not, it belongs. These people belong here. They contribute. They love you. They don't think ill will towards you or your beliefs. They want to be here and be understood and accepted. And we should be accepting of all of our demographics. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I really appreciate everybody's comments on this topic. I will not rehash what I've said many, many times, which is I think that proclamations need to generally be supported by about 95% of the population. So in this case, I'm not entirely sure that one fits, and I will be voting no.
I'm by far and widely known as an ally. So that's never in question whatsoever. Very, very proud to say that. I also know that there has been some other public comment and what we've heard tonight that is against this concept, yet we also represent the silent group of our community who may be too afraid to speak up for themselves. So I do have to acknowledge that too. So by not hearing it kind of matches the concept of normalizing something and making our town welcoming. So with that said, I love Pride. I love the celebrations that we do locally. Again, am the biggest ally. I do think, though, that as part of a proclamation policy, and the fact that unfortunately, and this hurts my heart, that it is controversial and political, not to me, not to Trustee Moyer, obviously, but to a lot of people it is, and that sucks, to be completely honest. I think that's a downfall in our community and world and nation. So, with that said, and knowing the backlash that will occur, again, not validating it by any means, but knowing that they will have a backlash, and the people who will suffer at that backlash are the folks who actually are the most vulnerable, and by the staff, unfortunately, even though it's a decision by the board, not by theirs at all. That's my major concern. So I love Pride. I will continue to celebrate it. And I think everyone here should, and you're welcome to do that. Absolutely. I don't know if it belongs on Proclamation. So that's where I'm at. Okay, everybody has had their opportunity to speak on this topic. Do I hear a motion?
I motion to approve resolution number 32-2026, Board of Trustee Proclamation Policy.
Second that.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Cannon,
No.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
No.
Mayor Daley.
No.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes 4-3.
Thank you. Our first proclamation will be National Preparedness Month in September. Thank you.
Thank you much. Ms. Clerk, can I have the title for the next section, please?
Resolution number 33-2026, a resolution authorizing participation in the 2026 coordinated election and approving the intergovernmental agreement for the 2026 coordinated election between the town of Wellington and Larimer County.
Hannah Hill, Town Clerk, will present on this resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Trustees, Hannah Hill, Town Clerk. As the board will remember, on August 11th, you passed resolution number 30-2026, which notified the county clerk and recorder of the town's intent to place a ballot issue on the November 3rd, 2026 election. The resolution before you tonight is solely for the Intergovernmental Agreement, or IGA, with the county clerk and recorder. This is a required agreement that would allow the town to move forward with the intent to place a ballot issue on the ballot in November for registered and active Wellington voters. Your meeting on August 25th is where you will set the ballot title or issue. Passing this resolution will allow the town clerk to sign the IGA and continue the process with the county. The IGA is required to be signed and returned to the county clerk and recorder by August 25th, which is why we need to do it at this meeting as opposed to your meeting on the 25th. A cost estimate is attached to the IGA as Exhibit A. As you're seeing in your packet, the county estimates this amount, which is a little bit higher than in previous coordinated years. The estimates are provided. I skipped a line, so that sentence didn't make any sense. I apologize. The county estimates this amount with those that have currently expressed interest in coordinating for the election. All of the coordinating entities share the election costs that are not reimbursed by the state to the county. This year, larger districts such as Fort Collins or Poudre School District have not expressed intent to coordinate with the county. So the portion that Wellington would have to share is higher than previous coordinated elections. As discussed in the Municipal Finance 101 work session, the board appropriates expenditures at the fund level, not at a line item level. So election costs are budgeted within the general fund. And while the current estimate from Larimer County may exceed the election line item budget, what is remaining in that line item budget, the general fund has sufficient capacity to absorb the difference and remain within board approved appropriations. I do want to note that the Leaper Center will be an in-person polling place, regardless of if the town has an item on the ballot, and individuals who wish to check their voter registration or mailing address may do so with the Larimer County Clerk's and Recorder's Office. I just want to reiterate that, again, your ballot issue wording, if the board approves this resolution, would be discussed at the board's August 25th meeting. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Thank you. I do want to just clarify that at the last meeting, we did approve Resolution 30, 2026, right? And that's a resolution of the Board of Trustees of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, supporting the referral of a public safety sales and use tax question to the November 3rd, 2026 general election in part. So that was already approved. So the question before us today is whether or not we're going to be entering the IGA for the coordinated election. That's the question at hand. Is there any questions about the resolution itself before we hear from the public? Yes, sir.
Just one question. If I'm not mistaken, the county's estimate is 26,400 for the election. And then we have in our election budget, the 21,400, if I'm not mistaken. Do you know how that difference is going to be, where that would come from?
So that will come from the general fund. It will come from the general fund.
Okay, just want to be transparent about that. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions for understanding? I'll open it up for public comment on this item. No public comment. Coming back for deliberation with the board. I just want to lead with my opinions this time. Coordinated election encourages more voters to participate. When we do the alternative would be for Wellington to have our own election, which would come with a different ballot, separate of the ones of any other coordinated items, right, from the state, federal, and so on. So we will get a better turnout and have more democracy associated with a coordinated election. For that reason, I absolutely 100% am behind this. Who else has a comment? Trustee Moyer.
Hi, yeah, thank you. I was just going to piggyback off of Trustee Blackstone's comments on who pays for that gap. And I would argue that the gap is absolutely accounted for in the revenue that would be seen from the increase to cover our ballot measure. And I'm not saying this correctly at all. I apologize. My head is very fuzzy at the moment, but I don't think there's a concern for whether or not the ballot measure is going to be paid for out of any kind of fund that would reduce costs for residents. And I kind of want to make that seen. This is a coordinated election that we are operating on independently from any other action that the town is taking at this particular moment. And if I'm wrong, please correct me, but I just really want to make that known.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? I hear a motion.
Can I motion to pass resolution number 33-2026, resolution authorizing participation in the 2026 coordinated election and approving the intergovernmental agreement for the 2026 coordinated election between the town of Wellington and Larimer County?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
No.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Since you are presenting the next item, would you read the title, please?
Yes, ma'am. Resolution number 34-2026, a resolution of the Town of Wellington, Colorado, adopting Highland Cemetery rules and regulations.
And welcome back, Ms. Hill, presenting this item.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Let me sort my paperwork here really quick. As the board will remember, on July 14th, we discussed proposed Highland Cemetery rules and regulations. I don't have a presentation, an official presentation. I was just going to review the items that the board provided some direction on July 14th. And then I have a couple other additional comments as well. Item 5.0.2, we discussed not liking the word special events, and we wordsmithed the proposed new 5.0.2 to indicate more of a function or activity taking place in the cemetery, to act more as like a park reservation, just so we have those functions on the cemetery calendar and we're not double booking or scheduling things when there are other functions taking place in the cemetery. Section 5.1, we discussed the need for animals in those functions or memorials to be able to be in the cemetery, as well as any memorials or scheduled funerals having pets or animals there if desired as well. Public Works and I did discuss that option, and we feel that changing that wording to say allowing animals to roam unrestrained, which would be prohibited, gives us the backing to allow those types of functions in the cemetery, appropriate functions in the cemetery, but not have the cemetery act as a dog park for unrestrained animals. Section 6.7, we just outlined the appeal process that the board asked for, as noted in section 14.0, which we'll discuss in a moment. In section 10.1.2, Public Works and the town clerk's office did discuss the low profile borders that the board requested. And we do feel that certain low profile borders of brickstone or other approved materials is maintenance friendly. We would still ask that that still goes through a permit process, and I use the word permit loosely, to make sure that staff can mark out the plots, that those borders are not impeding on neighboring spaces, and that it's not a material that will degrade quickly or cause maintenance issues. And then we also added in the appeals comment in section 14.0. The board did discuss temporary decorations, so we added in a new section of 10.0.1. And then 10.1.3, the board discussed not wanting to allow live plants, as those do impede on neighboring spaces, and they do take a lot of maintenance to make sure that they stay lovely to look at. So we removed 10.1.3 per the board's direction. Section 11.0.1, we added in the prohibition of solar lights as the board directed. And then we added in section 14.0 as a new section, as the board directed again, for anyone seeking an exception or a waiver or variance from any of those listed rules and requirements. We did leave this a little bit loosely worded, just so it's more of an administrative function. We can make it very easy for those individuals who wish to seek an exception or an appeal for any process, whatever that rule is or whatever their reasoning is. I did also want to note that we added in the words or designee when referring to the Public Works Director, just to allow a little bit of flexibility in staffing for who might be in charge of Public Works at any given time, if someone's on vacation and things. The other items that I did want to note are in section 10.0.1, we do note balloons and tinsels and ribbons and things like that. And then that is listed as prohibited in another section. So this is just a little bit of an admin glitch on my end that we listed it twice. And another admin glitch would be section 10.1.2, notes vases are allowed, but then section 11.0.1 notes that vases are not allowed. So I would just like a little bit of board direction on if we do want to allow vases, if you would like non-breakable materials of vases, or if those are also not going to be included in the temporary decorations. That is a little bit convoluted. We would need an amendment to the resolution. However you want to word that, if you want vases or do not want vases. And then in section 10.0.1, we would need to remove balloons and ribbons. That being said, staff does not see this document as a document that would be in place for the next 40 years like we saw with the previous rules and regulations. We do see these as a strong foundation for building upon the pride that we take in our cemetery. The intent is not only to establish clear and consistent standards, but to support ongoing improvements that reflect the care, respect, and investment that both the town and the community have in this important asset. We realize that there are opportunities to further enhance maintenance, appearance, and operations within the cemetery, and these regulations provide a framework for moving in that direction. If the board approves the resolution and the rules and regulations, we would recommend utilizing the next 2 years to evaluate how these regulations function in practice, identify areas that may need refinement, and address any gaps that become apparent through that implementation. Following that review period, staff would intend to bring back the document to the board with any recommended updates. We do want to make sure that the board feels like this document meets the needs of the community and that you are comfortable with it. We are happy to take it back and rework it as many times as is needed until the board feels confident that it is what you would like to stand behind. If you would like to pass it tonight with those amendments, we will move forward with the implementation. I'm happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for understanding? Yes, sir.
I would just like it to see it cleaned up before we vote on it instead of, I mean, you've got 2 areas where there's controversy. I'd rather us come to conclusion on that and then bring it back to us for approval at that point. That's my preference. Thank you.
Thank you, Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, I don't have questions necessarily. It's the same kind of comments that I had the first time it was brought before us. I've had some conversations with some people in the town who have many generations of their family members and also friends buried in the same cemetery, and their desires would be that they are left alone and able to protect and mourn the people in their family and also their extended family in the way that they choose. And so I think that when we look at this, we have to consider our small town values. We often refer back to that. We are a small town. We have these values that are unique to Wellington, and those extend past life actually into this preservation of memories of each other. And so in honor of those that I have spoken to and those that come after them, like, I would just like to say that I think that if a flower is wanted, if a gift is wanted, as long as it's cleaned up, I think there are many things we can put in place to make sure that our cemetery is maintained adequately. But limiting the limits we put on our family members and our neighbors to grieve those that they want to grieve. How can we allow them the most leniency to do what they need to do to honor their family members, and then also make sure that we keep our cemetery in good condition? That's what I want to see.
Thank you. Any other questions for understanding on the resolution?
I have a question.
Yes, please.
Just 2 questions, and thanks for doing all this legwork. As far as the appeals process, because I feel like that's what I'm leaning heavily on, as far as there's the trying to set a standard, but then I think it's very appropriate for people to say like, hey, here's the special case. I very much advocate for people to do that. As far as that process goes, from my understanding, you're the decider or the town clerk is the decider. Is there an appeals process to that if you decide no, you can't do blank? Do residents have any other next step, or is that the end?
So it would be myself and the representative from Public Works,
fair.
depending on what it is. If it's an appeal for a cost issue, if someone would not want the requirement of the vault or the casket, that might be something where I can make that decision on my own. However, or my office can make that decision on its own. Most of it will be myself and the representative from Public Works.
Mhm.
I'll be very honest with you. As I was going through this, I was trying to think of what we might say no to. Someone who doesn't have a meaningful reason for not requiring a vault is probably the only area where we would hesitate and say no. And we would say no based off of past experiences. If we said no and they wanted to make another appeal, we would send it to the town administrator. And if there is enough reasoning or pushback, we would bring it. I would assume we'd bring it to the board.
I feel like I have a good example of where that no may come in. Say you have a family that wants to do something special, on a birthday, and then they don't follow through maybe with like the cleanup or something like that. And then they do that again and again and again. Maybe that's where there may be that instance of like, hey man, like, so that may be an example of that. And that was going to be my second question as far as just like what would you do if, again, somebody's like, hey, I'm going to put up these vases and flowers, but I'm going to take care of them. What do you do if they don't? Sorry,
Oh, I think you've hit the nail on the head of why managing cemeteries is complicated.
Right. Sorry.
I think for your example, to me, that's more of a function. So if they let us know that they're having a function for that birthday or whatever that memory might be, staff would have that knowledge and we'd be able to go out to the cemetery and see after the fact, are there balloons? Is there tinsel? Are there things hanging? Is there something that might impede safety that we can clean up after the fact? To me, that's not necessarily part of the appeal. If it's year after year after year where we're taking excess staff time, to me, that's not necessarily an appeal. That's a bigger discussion. We'd probably be bringing back a different set of rules and regulations to ask the board what your direction to us would be. I don't see us trying to inhibit anybody celebrating or having a memory or a function in the cemetery. The appeals process, from what I heard from the board, is more meant for when you're scheduling an internment. If you passed these rules and regulations, you'd be requiring a vault, you'd be requiring the burial receptacle, you'd be requiring the monuments to have a foundation. All of those have an added cost. That was the board's concern. And so the appeal process would go more towards, as you're setting up the need to make use of the space in the cemetery.
Interesting.
And if there's a financial reason, a religious reason, a personal reason, whatever that might be during the internment, or for scheduling the monument, that I think was more of the intent behind the appeal process.
Interesting. So I took it a little bit broader.
Okay.
And for example, like if somebody wanted to have, solar lights on their stone for lighting, my understanding was that could also be something. And that's where I went back to that, like, okay, they say they're going to take care of it, but then they don't. Or like, I'm trying to think of the worst case scenario, because I guess that's where my brain goes. But in my head, that's also where the appeal would be. It's like somebody's like, hey, I really want these lights. And like, if giving you the ability or whoever to be like, all right, you can, but you got to take care of it. If you don't, we're going to take care of them for you by like removing them. Is that not part of this?
You're correct, and I'm glad you brought that up. That would probably fall under the appeal process as well, yes. In that case, what I would assume we would do would be discuss with that individual what type of solar lights they are, if they're breakable, where they're going to place them, how many there are, try to gather some more of that, more information. And in that case, if the decision is still no, because your rules and regulations do say those are prohibited, we would fall back on the rules and regulations, which, and I understand it sounds harsh, like, don't get me wrong, my job is to administer the function of the cemetery. It does not mean that I am unsympathetic or that I understand where individuals are coming from. But if these rules and regulations are what the board wants staff to operate under, if something is prohibited, it is generally prohibited.
Interesting.
So that is why I would ask that if the board is comfortable with this document and we go forward with it, if we can get that feedback from the community, from the board, if we can see what really is not working, what is really causing a problem, then we can come back to you and make those amendments and those adjustments.
Yeah, that would be something that I would like to see. I didn't realize that on the first draft or the first discussion. I apologize for that. But yeah, I think that ability to go in and even more on a case by case. And I also don't want to be like, well, now this is your full-time job is managing the cemetery. But yeah, it is that. That's what I'm just concerned about. So I would like to see some sort of discussion or something about that, at least to give you the ability to, on that case by case basis, make those things. I like the standard, hey, here's what, the goal is. But if somebody says, hey, this is important, I think that's worth giving you the ability to look at. So I think that's all I had.
If we table it and it comes back, then we're happy to work on that wording. Or we can, if it is approved tonight, we can see how it is working and what appeals requests we are getting and bring back different recommendations for an amendment.
Any public item, comment on this item outside of the ones that we've received by email prior? Okay, bringing it back to the board for deliberation. Many of you guys have already provided your opinions. So if you agree with someone, just do mention that, but we don't have to repeat them by any means. So Trustee Barrett, any opinions on this item? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I do think I generally agree with some of the items that Trustee Blackstone brought up. Certainly if I think my position was kind of that we maybe don't necessarily want solar lights and that sort of thing out there just because folks don't maybe on some occasions don't replace rechargeable batteries or these types of things. If it is a resident, if a resident is very much wanting to do that and has made the commitment to maintaining these types of things, I think I would be okay with that. So I'd be okay with that being maybe part of that appeals process. More specifically, though, I did want to talk about, but I had brought up, Ms. Hill, that section 10.1.2 regarding vases specifically. I would be inclined to also, because there was, let's see, it was section 11.0.1, which seemed to kind of directly contradict 10.1.2 in the allowance of flowers or vases containing flowers. I would be inclined to say that, yes, we should have vases containing flowers subject to the same restrictions that are in 10.0.1, which is temporary decorations are displayed at the owner's risk and may be removed by cemetery personnel at their discretion when they become faded, damaged, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, I would be in favor of maintaining that as long as the rest of the board is. And I think you had a question about section 10.0.1, but I can't remember what it was.
10.0.1 is the new temporary decoration listing, and that listing of things that might fall under temporary decoration does include balloons and ribbons, which again is that piece where balloons are listed as prohibited. So that balloon and ribbon wording would need to be removed.
Understood. Quite frankly, I would generally oppose balloons and ribbons specifically, just because they don't last very long. They're out there for, a couple days and then they're laying on the ground, that sort of thing. I do want to make sure that the cemetery is maintained well. And so I would shy away from those types of things specifically, but that's just my opinion. So.
We can move forward, but I would, does anybody else have a new comment that has not been mentioned yet? No, okay.
Oh, I have a hand up. I'm sorry. So sorry, Madam Mayor. I know this is difficult.
Yes. Trustee
Okay.
Moyer.
Thank you. I've spoken with and she said it's okay to say her name, Blair Silverberg, whose family has been here for a really long time. And I think her concern is that they like to honor their family in a million different ways. And so having super restrictive policies in the way that they can either leave remembrances or come and honor their family members is not exactly what they associate with their small town values and what we offer as a small town. And so I'd just like to say, and I think this is what I said the first time we talked about this, is I would hate to at all govern how someone is able to honor their family members when it's time to lay them at rest. And so I just needed to say that and state that on behalf of Blair and all the other folks that have family members who have been resting here for a really long time, and allow just people to be able to honor them the way that they want to honor them. And I know that we need to have a clean cemetery and we need to have restrictions, and I know all that, but I think some leniency and also, obviously the allowances for, those exceptions is great. So I just needed to say that. Thank you.
Thank you. I would entertain this motion. So if you do want to do this motion, just say so moved. One moment. Oops, wrong page. Sorry, I haven't done a motion in a long time. The motion would be to approve resolution number 34, 2026, a resolution by the town of Wellington, Colorado, adopting the Highland Cemetery rules and regulations with the following amendments. Strike section 11.0.2, replace an 11.0.1, replacing the wording vases containing flowers to unattached vases. Does that acknowledge both of the concerns that you mentioned? Striking 11.0.2 would be the balloons and tinsel, because that's already mentioned in temporary.
I would say the words balloons and ribbons. The new 10 point, oh, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Unattached bases to what?
To temporary, including that within temporary items is an unattached vase. So if it became a nuisance, it could be removed by cemetery staff if it became a nuisance of a sort. Yeah. So that motion would be to approve resolution number 34, 2026, striking section 11.0.2 and replacing in 11.0.1 vases containing flowers with unattached vases. If you do want to make that motion, you can say so moved.
So moved.
Madam Mayor, if I could.
There's a motion on the table at the moment. One moment, you can have a chance after the motion is resolved. Is there a second for this motion?
Second.
Trustee Cannon, your comments, please.
Again, I'll go back to my original comment. There seems to be a lot of flux in this right now, and I would rather see this come back as a final document as opposed to, making amendments on the fly. Thank you.
Yeah, and I do appreciate that. I don't think there's anything of great substance that needs to be changing, just with a few words. So that's why I did recommend the motion. Roll call, please.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
No.
Trustee Moore,
No.
Trustee Blackstone,
No.
Trustee Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
No.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion does fail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Respectfully, Madam Mayor, is there any way we can have a motion to bring this back to another date with the
Feel free.
modification?
Yeah, feel free to do a motion for continuance.
Sure. I will motion to continue Ms. Garcia, do we need a date specific? Okay, I will make a motion to postpone resolution number 34-2026, a resolution by the town of Wellington, Colorado, adopting Highland Cemetery rules and regulations.
Second that.
For discussion for the purpose of this motion, those considerations, as I mentioned, as amendments is what we would want to be acknowledged in that new draft as another reading. Yes, please.
That and the further ability of the town clerk on some of those smaller nuanced items. I just don't feel like that was part of this properly. So giving more flexibility to the town clerk and our public works department. I think that's what was important to me.
Okay, is that an agreement for direction? All right, we'll proceed with that roll call, please.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion does passes. And thank you, I appreciate it. I will take those comments and bring back version 3. And I do have another question related to the cemetery, if I may take just a moment.
Yes.
Staff, when we did the RFP for portalettes, the portalette in the cemetery was removed. It wasn't ADA compliant. It was an additional cost and it was removed. We have had a request to bring it back. And I wanted to update the board that Public Works has offered to pour a concrete pad for that portalette at roughly a cost of $800. We do have that in our budget, and we would move forward with that in September or October when the weather allows. And then we would move forward with adding in an ADA compliant portalette. It is not budgeted for this year. We do have funds to cover it for the remainder of this year. And the town clerk has requested it in the budget for next year, but we wanted general consensus of the board that is what you would like us to do to move forward. I don't need a motion or anything. Since it was just a request, we wanted to make sure we're following the direction at the will of the board.
Yes,
Thank
please.
you very
Thank
much.
for following up with that. Next item we have is our library board update. Did I miss something? Oh, I did. Excuse me. I'm sorry. I'll wait for Ms. Hill to get organized there. Ms. Clerk, can you read the title for item 5?
Ordinance number 10-2026, an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a portion of Tract D, Sage Meadows Tract D replat to the Board of Governors of the Colorado State University System for agricultural irrigation well purposes.
Mr. Byrd will present on this item.
Evening, Mayor and Board. Cody Bird, Town Planning Director. I'll try to keep the presentation relatively brief because you heard a lot about this at the prior meeting. At the July 28th meeting, the Board of Trustees considered subdivision approvals in Sage Meadows for Tract D, and then a subsequent minor subdivision for Tract D2. and a rezone to clean up some parcel boundaries and to honor the request of CSU to obtain some additional space for relocation of an agricultural irrigation well on the property. In your agenda packet tonight, the board did approve the subdivision plats and enabled the process to move forward. So tonight is kind of the effective approval for conveying the land subject to those prior approvals. In your packet tonight, there's an ordinance that is the board's actual authorization to proceed. There's a donation and conveyance agreement that outlines or memorializes the good and valuable consideration and identifies that the town desired to make that a no-cost transfer to CSU, kind of in recognition of the intergovernmental collaboration and the mutual purposes that these entities work together to serve. And then there's a special warranty deed, which is the conveyance mechanism by which the town will receive the land from the developer, and then a subsequent quitclaim deed that would be the conveyance mechanism to gift the land to CSU in accordance with the board's approvals. It's a relatively straightforward process, but there's a lot of documents that kind of interrelate. If the board approves the documents as presented tonight, staff would be coordinating and obtaining all the signatures, applicants for both prior subdivision approvals or circulating documents for signatures, and town staff would facilitate recordation of all the documents sequentially to maintain a clear chain of title for those conveyances to take place. We do have Mr. Pete Meyer, Vice President of Real Estate for CSU Strata here tonight. So I'm happy to answer any questions regarding this brief presentation, the documents included in your packet, and then maybe offer an opportunity for Mr. Meyer to speak.
Sure. Is there any questions from the board? All right, Pete, do you have anything you'd like to share with us? Thank you for being here.
Good evening, trustees. Thank you for your time this evening. As Cody mentioned, I'm Pete Meyer, Vice President of Real Estate for CSU Strata. Strata is a private nonprofit organization that was formed to handle majority of the real estate needs for the CSU system for anything outside of the main campus. Really just want to express our gratitude and appreciation for this partnership between CSU and town and this board. And without our ability to replace this failed well, it would have a significant impact on our RDEC facility. Really wanted to thank Cody too for his efforts and support in getting us to this point, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any questions for Pete?
I have a request. It'd be pretty cool to go see with that. If this goes through and there's a new well being drilled, it'd be pretty cool to go and see. Just gonna throw that out there. I don't know who pulls that lever.
Or even an RDEC tour would be a fun field trip.
But
yeah, we can always do that. We
love
can let you know when they're drilling. We're going to move as fast as possible.
Love it.
Hopefully get it drilled this fall.
Cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be great to see if possible.
Sure.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any public comment on this item? Personally, it is very important to be a great partner with CSU. And Wellington's roots lie in agriculture, and I can't see a better way to support agricultural needs and research that are happening at RDEC for CSU. So I personally am in favor of this 100 times over. So any other comments or deliberation? May I hear a motion, please?
I motion to approve ordinance number 10, 2026, an ordinance authorizing the conveyance of a portion of Tract D, Sage Meadows Tract D replat to the Colorado State University system for agricultural irrigation well purposes.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daley.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you much.
Thank you.
All right. Now I was so excited for it that I almost skipped an item for you. Now we have a library board update. Oh, excuse me. I'm so sorry. We have to take a recess actually for just a couple of minutes. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
I
Take
make a
recess
motion for a
for 2 minutes. Please come back as quickly as possible. We're back to our meeting at 8:23. I do want to exit the regular meeting and enter the library board. Ms. Clerk, may I please have a roll call?
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Barrett,
Here.
Trustee Cannon,
Here.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Here.
Mayor Daley,
Present.
Madam Mayor, the library board has a quorum.
Thank you much. This will be presented by our library director, Ross Leginus.
It's okay.
So much pressure from Kaylor.
It's okay. I am going to try to go a little bit slower tonight. I know that people watching at home really some depend on the captions, and I can get going really fast and it just jumbles. I'm going to try to go as slow as I can.
Thank you.
So good evening, trustees and Madam Mayor. Sorry. I am Ross Lajeunesse, Library Director for the Town of Wellington. Before sharing updates and current initiatives, I did want to take a brief moment to recognize the entities that assisted in refreshing and updating our lobby here at the Leaper Center. Upon walking in this evening, I hope you noticed new and consistent shelving that was purchased by the Friends of the Library.
Oh, wow.
And installed by our Public Works Department, providing a cleaner and more organized access to use books. A fresh coat of paint replicating and complementing the boardroom lightens the space and provides the ability to see better. It was quite dark. Additionally, all signage in the lobby is now consistent with attention to readability for those with impaired vision. And finally, there is new and additional seating in order to peruse current information that is happening in Wellington and surrounding areas, as well as the Town of Wellington department information and upcoming events. All this was completed efficiently during heavy traffic and highly attended library events. Thank you to the Public Works and the Friends of the Library for your attention to detail and working within the numerous needs of a very busy and utilized Leaper Center. So I'm going to quote a little bit from the executive summary because it does matter. The library's patron base continues to expand and support our institution, demonstrating with verifiable data a sustained community engagement that is tailored for our community and continues to create trust in the library as a highly valued and necessary public resource. This reflects a municipal library that remains highly utilized, relevant, and responsive to community needs. This evening, I'd like to share a few achievements to support this. As we are wrapping up the summer reading program, it's not officially done yet, but I was able to pull some numbers. There are a few data points that I can currently state. Much effort and pre-planning goes into any event or programming resource that we offer, including but not limited to resource pricing increases, inflation data, the Consumer Confidence Index, and the Consumer Price Index. These data points help us pre-plan as best as we can to provide services while remaining within budget. Due to this attention to international, national, and state trends, we attempt to predict engagement and resource usability. Due to this focused attention, I'm glad to report that this year our summer reading program saw a 31% increase in participation over last year. That's pretty big. With registered users, we also saw a 62% increase in summer reading program specific events. Remember, we also continue with reoccurring events throughout the program, so these are additional, with many of these being at capacity or just a tiny bit over. We could not have achieved these increases without the support, and there are a lot of our Board of Trustees, both former and current, our community partner of the human being, the Friends of the Library, local businesses, town and library staff, our numerous volunteers, the Kiwanis Club with a large donation supporting the program, and our community. Without the extreme support, and I do say extreme, of our patrons and all of the kids and Kiddo Pluses in this town, we could not have done it. From all of us at Wellington Public Library and from myself, thank you. Finally, this evening, I am here to share our diligence regarding artificial intelligence, or AI, access and use in libraries, both here and statewide. As an institution, public libraries uphold and protect the individual's privacy. As the board and our community is likely aware, AI and its integration is a quickly changing and modifying frontier that requires our attention and careful thought in many ways. My job as director is to support and defend the institution and our patrons without personal bias to the very best of my ability. However, I'm human. This board and this community know and have grown to depend on my full transparency, professional integrity, insight, humanity, and possibly a cheeky sense of humor. I'm just being myself. So a little background as to where we find ourselves now at this very moment. While attending the annual directors conference this May, one agenda item for discussion was AI in libraries. The conference room was full with ambient conversations and high noise levels, while the spokesperson announced the agenda item of AI in libraries. With the unexpected and sudden drop in noise level, one voice emoted to a colleague, robots, gross. And so your director now finds himself on the Colorado State Task Force for Artificial Intelligence in public libraries as a stakeholder voice representing Colorado rural libraries by a unanimous and immediate being voluntold. Now, with some personally shared backgrounds so that you understand why I'm on this task force, we find ourselves here now. While working at the state level, Wellington Public Library is developing local and institutional procedures, not policies, with specific focus on patron privacy, data collection, surveillance, copyright law, and third-party vendors, with specific attention to their privacy and the data collection policies. Out of these discussions and conversations with our patrons, and in collaboration with our Town of Wellington IT department, the Wellington Public Library has installed a public computer that has AI features disabled and is currently identified with a plain language symbol. Per the IT department, this is from the IT department. This is not my silo. We are collaborating to add Linux workstations to the public computer lab that default to an AI-free computing experience. Utilizing a Linux operation system instead of Windows saves on licensing costs and extends the useful life of computer lab software. Library patrons that prefer a traditional, distraction-free computing environment will appreciate that the Linux workstations are free of any built-in AI features or advertising. The secure web browser defaults to an AI-free search engine that blocks tracking cookies where possible. As the library always does, we are in the beta testing phase currently and will adjust the balance of public computers as we move forward that reflect the use and needs of our community and patron base, again, as we always do. In addition to our computer and internet access, I am investigating and questioning our partners regarding copyright issues and third-party policies. I'm going to use a visual. E-bikes. We have a situation in Wellington, everybody's on them. I go after resources. I am not informed by our distributor that this is AI generated. There's nothing. I have to wait until I get the book. The author, I guess they're being cheeky, Evan Surge, get it? This is somewhat frustrating, and I am working with our distributor to ask, and as part of the task force, to ask that it is denoted that this has been AI generated or contributed by AI. There are typos in here, so I cannot put it into circulation, so it needs to be sent back because at this point we have no warning. It is on their dime, not on ours. So this is just one example of what is happening. It's being flooded. Like I said, this is a new frontier. I am very uncomfortable with not knowing where taxpayer dollars go. This is my biggest reach out to distributors and third parties. If we are paying $24 for this, where is it going? We're on it. We're working on it. As we explore this new Wild West, rest assured that your library director is mindful of our community and continues to protect the privacy of all to the very best of our abilities. As we narrow down and receive verifiable information and practices, we will respond accordingly with procedures, again, not policies, that reflect our community and the institution of a public library in 2026. Thank you, and I can stand for any questions. Don't ask me any specific things, but I can stand for any feedback or questions.
I've read more books this summer than I have in my adult life, and I haven't turned them into the library yet. So your numbers are going to go up. And when I say I read, I listened to them and all, but I did do it. And I was told that counts.
Always.
Okay, good.
It always counts.
Yeah.
Literacy is
Seven
literacy.
for the summer. I'm very proud of myself. Any questions or comments from anybody?
I have
Yes,
a comment.
One moment. Trustee Blackstone.
A Linux system, I know that. So I love to see the use of that. Linux systems are awesome. That's what I used all through like my associate's degree and part of my bachelor's. They're awesome systems. The amount of software and stuff, like instead of Microsoft Word, it's like Libra Word, and you get so many things that are like open source and free.
Yeah.
So love to see that. You can also run it on older systems, which is really cool because it's a way to like potentially refurbish older computers and have them like work again. So that's really neat. It seems like the AI kind of issues that you're dealing with is one, like the books and media that you're getting, which makes a ton of sense. And then like kind of the tracking, which I think is why this machine was put out. I was curious, and I've spoken about this before. The other computers, say somebody wanted to get on there and use their free ChatGPT thing or their Claude deal. Is that possible on the current computers if somebody wanted to do that?
Yes, we are not. We reflect our community. We are not getting rid of artificial intelligence in the library. Some people do want to use it. We are not making a judgment. We do have people who do not want AI on their computer. And so that is what we are doing, is giving them the option and the choice. And again, we always promote access.
Cool.
With no judgment. We just really want to make sure that we are honoring those that do not want AI on their computer. We will always have a balance.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that strikes up a perfect, personally, I think that's awesome. Yeah, that's all I have.
Thank you. Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to say that my kids participate wholeheartedly in the summer reading program, but they just don't. They're just outside being feral. And so I think that I truly, truly appreciate the effort and the intention that you put into every single part of your programming throughout the summer and always through the year. You rarely ask for anything. You rarely ask for support. And so I would just like to say out loud in this moment that knowing that you're at capacity, which you stated, I would love to see us find any avenue to allocate you resources that could help you expand and grow in the way that you see and you want to, with your vision of what the library could be in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. You are such a visionary and an advocate for all people. We've all heard the stories of why a library is important and why having access to information is important. And I just think that for us to support you is what needs to happen. And for you to ask is not a bad thing. Please tell us what you need moving forward. And I think we'll do the best to accommodate you as we can responsibly.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Yes, sir.
Just as somebody with a 5-month-old as of today, I want to thank the story time that is being provided, that he is being able to attend. And I would just encourage residents to look up all the other free family programs that are being brought by our library. I think it's awesome, and I personally appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We love doing it.
Trustee Barrett.
I was going to relay a similar sentiment, having those kind of programs for very young children, toddlers and everything. I mean, when I was working in restaurants and had two toddlers, story times were a big deal for me, being able to have opportunities to take my children out, interact with the community around them and play and enrich themselves. This is very, I don't know, you've expanded the program so much. You have a great turnout every year, improving every year. You've done such a fantastic job. I love seeing this. And having options like that year round though too are key as well. And you're such an asset. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Anyone else? I can say that story times and sing-alongs with JoJo, some of you guys know what I'm talking about, were essential when I had young kids and made me feel part of something and a reason to get out and about. So I love those so much. I believe in our library wholeheartedly, and I think everything that you do is the best of Wellington. So thank you for doing that. I'm very happy to know that we included a new library plan within our community center feasibility study, and that we're planning for the future and making sure that we can expand our facilities and our resources for our community to have a way to participate for free and have all the knowledge and access whatever they want to have. So, and to encourage that curiosity. So thank you so much for this update. If there aren't any other comments, I'm going to go ahead and close the library board and reopen our regular board. May I please have a roll call?
Trustee Blackstone.
Here.
Trustee Moore. Here. Trustee Barrett.
Here.
Trustee Moyer.
Here.
Trustee Cannon.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason.
Here.
Mayor Daly.
Present.
Madam Mayor, there is quorum.
Thank you so much. We are now on to reports. Mr. Kumley, our town attorney, do you have any updates for us?
Madam Mayor, no report from the town attorney other than the item that will be handled in executive session.
Thank you, sir. Our town administrator, Patti Garcia.
Hi there, a couple things. I had sent an email, or I believe somebody, the front desk had sent an email out to the board that we have some water education guides available at the front desk if anybody would be interested. Items that talk about Colorado water law, where your water comes from, Colorado's interstate water compacts, Colorado's trans-basin diversions, and the guide to Colorado groundwater. They are all small little booklets, but easy to read, but super informative. If it's something you're interested, please stop by the front desk and Angela can help you get those. August 18th, we have a work session. Sheriff Fayen will be here to talk about flock cameras, give a presentation. It is a work session, but the mayor has authorized there to be public comment that night. So we'll be prepared for that. And then on August 25th, there will be two presentations I want you to be aware of. NOCO Foundation will be presenting on housing at a crossroads, and XL Energy will also be here to talk about the public safety power shutoffs and wildlife mitigation work that they're doing, along with all the other agenda items.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you.
Within our packet are staff communications, including the Board of Trustees planning calendar, utilities report for June 2026, and the Larimer County Sheriff's Office July monthly report. Are there any questions or?
I do have one
Yes, sir.
question, and this goes to Ms. Garcia there. I know they still offer the water leaders courses. Do you get notices of that or upcoming courses? And because, I mean, this is very beneficial. It's very long, comprehensive, but it's a very beneficial course.
Absolutely. I'm not sure when the enrollment dates are. It may have passed, but I can look into that. And if not, I can watch for it for next year, but I will take a look for that in the morning. Thank you for asking.
All right, board reports. Start with Mr. Blackstone.
Yeah, one board report. I attended the Wellington Housing Authority and Wellington Community Housing Board meeting at the beginning of this month. And there was just a couple things to note. I suppose it was a fairly expensive last 3 months. There's been a lot of direction from HUD to really make sure that folks are getting into smaller units kind of faster. And what that means is that if you already have one opening and moving somebody into that, then that now creates a second opening. So the costs were just a lot higher. And it's hard to see. The housing authority has, budgeted for all of those things, but it's just kind of a difficult pill to swallow, to see the funds that could potentially go to other projects are being done. But it's things like making sure the floors are, taken care of, and cabinets, and the fans in the bathroom, things that are not particularly fun to talk about, but they're things that are costly. So that was something that was just kind of a bummer. One positive thing that came out of it, though, is I am understanding that there is work between the town of Wellington and the housing authority, potentially looking at some new, I want to say there was a grant that was brought by the town to look at some potential land, and some of the usage of our current properties, to potentially make some moves going forward. I don't want to hold my breath, but I am crossing fingers. So hopefully there's some things that are happening in the future. I don't think it's anything immediate, but I suppose everybody should cross their fingers. So,
Yeah, that's
hopefully.
absolutely moving forward. So we'll have more information on that in the future.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep. Trustee Moore.
For the Main Street program, nothing in particular to report other than the market is still going, and we would love to get more volunteers to show up, and always come by on Fridays, 4:30 to 7:30. Thank you.
The park's beautiful right now. It's such a lovely thing to be in the park for Main Street markets. Mayor Pro Tem.
Apologies, I was about to say Main Street for some reason. The Larimer County Opioid Abatement Council does not meet for another 2 weeks, so I have nothing to report at this time.
Thank you. Trustee Barrett.
So we had a post work session back in July, and we had a wonderful guest appearance from a student from Wellington High School. And he talked about having a youth outreach organization that would be their own advisory board for the town, and talking about maybe coming up with one for the town of Wellington. He has been or he's going to do some research into helping assemble that. And I thought it was a great option, or a great idea, and a great initiative on his behalf. I'm super excited about the concept. We also did a tour of some more parks. We did the east side of the highway, and talked about just, brainstormed ideas about the future potential of those parks, what kind of maintenance we do now, and certain items that are going to be disassembled in other parks can be reused in these parks as well. So just, keeping the conversation going. Great work by the Parks Department. But yeah, I also just want to remind everyone of the gala on September 19th. It is a night out on the town, Vintage Hollywood Gala. There will be a jazz singer. And it's a wonderful date night, and it's a great cause. So tickets are running out fast. Sign up as soon as you can. That same day is the Star Foundation 5K and 10K. I participate in the 5K every year. It is a great opportunity to get together, do something healthy, but also, have some good food and have a nice beer afterwards as well, whatever you choose. And it's a great cause. Star Foundation was originally the Spargetober Foundation, and they have done great community outreach for the last decade.
Wonderful, wonderful volunteers. That gala is for the Community Services Center that supports our food bank. Thank you. Trustee Cannon. Trustee Moyer.
Yeah, thank you. So the Behavioral Health Policy Council has actually been able to up their game this year and offer $3 million in grants to organizations that promote and support mental health across the county. And while that is a top secret list, I can just say that the support from the county has been tremendous and has allowed for that increase in support. That list will be coming out shortly. And I just want to say thank you to everybody on that council and the board that has provided the insight to be able to look over those applications and align the priorities with the funding to be able to support something that's so very important in our communities across the board throughout Larimer County. So thank you.
Thank you. One thing I wanted to acknowledge for my board report is I've been spending a lot of time with the chamber, their board of directors, and with Main Street and the other groups. So I discussed the sales tax proposal with them, as well as our achievements in affordable housing that we recently had a press release about. I was surprised with the community response to that press release. I do want to clear up that there's no specific town subsidies associated with that. The housing that we're celebrating is providing a more diverse option. And it's targeted towards what generally the examples are like school teachers or seniors or our first responders. That's kind of the AMI that they're talking about. A lot of times too, if you think of our median home costs, it's above $450,000. So when we're talking about affordable, we just mean less than that. So although that kind of hurts my heart because that's still not attainable for a lot of families, the fact that we're prioritizing making sure that there is a larger range of houses available and homes available so that people can stay in Wellington is really important to me. So I think there is a misconception on the word affordable housing, meaning that we are subsidizing all kinds of things. But the point is that we are committed to providing a larger diversity of homes and ushering those developments through so that they can provide those options and also provide more rental options for our community too, which based on our housing study, we determined we're wholly missing rental potential in our town. So those who can't buy or choose not to buy, maybe not have any options to live in Wellington. And we want to make sure that Wellington is welcoming to all types of options. So yeah, so when we're talking about those living in affordable housing, I hate to condemn those folks in any reason when we're talking about maybe our kindergarten teacher, right? So I do want to just clear that up. And it's workforce too. So as we're driving economic growth, we definitely want people to be able to work in those businesses, and affordable housing is generally targeted towards workforce housing as well. So I did want to clear that up. Otherwise, I don't have any reports. The next item is executive session. Ms. Clerk, can you please read the title of this item?
Executive session pursuant to section 24-6-402 sub 4 sub B CRS for purposes of receiving legal advice on specific legal questions related to metropolitan districts.
Just a second. Okay, so we have two of them. That's why I was confused. May I have a motion to enter executive session?
I'll move to enter executive session.
I'll second.
We'll go with Blackstone. Roll call, please.
Trustee Barrett,
Yes.
Trustee Cannon,
Yes.
Trustee Moyer,
Yes.
Trustee Blackstone,
Yes.
Trustee Moore,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Mason,
Yes.
Mayor Daly.
Yes.
Madam Mayor, that motion passes.
Thank you. For the public, the board is now entering executive session. Members of the public in person will be asked to leave. Thank you for attending. And the virtual meeting will end